Hello, welcome to Enots Engineering. I'm Alan. In this week's video we have a new arrival in the workshop. I've been looking for a used milling machine for about 2 years on eBay and other sites. I've even placed bids for a few, but the prices are high on a good machine. In the end I decided to purchase a new machine which will replace my pedestal drill and cross table. The last time I used a milling machine was in the 1970s. Viewers will know that I use my lathe for milling and have completed many projects by milling on the lathe. There'll be a few weeks before I can get the tools and adapters I need to hold the milling cutters I have and get the workshop back to normal. In this video we see some of the problems you may have when the machine arrives and take a look at the machine and its features. So let's go into the workshop and have a look. Well, the machine finally arrives, and as you can see it's fitted onto a pallet. The driver of the lorry helped me to move the pallet across the drive and up to the garage door. My garage door is over 6 foot high, but I still needed to remove the carton on the top of the machine to get the pallet and the milling machine into the garage. The carton on the top contained the stand for the milling machine. Once this was removed, it was easy to move the machine into the garage. I removed the packing case, being careful not to catch the staples that had been used to hold the case together, and then I took the stand out of the cardboard box ready for assembly. Well, at the moment my workshop is in a complete mess. I've got bits and pieces all over the place because I've had to make space for this milling machine. I've spent a good 3 hours lifting the top part onto the machine stand, and now I'm just adjusting these. The first thing I did before I fitted the machine onto the stand was fit the feet to the bottom of the stand. These I purchased separately, they don't come with the machine. These feet are on a nylon pad, some are on rubber and some are just cast. It consists of 2 nuts, 2 washers and a thread, and I'll explain how you fit those to the machine to level the machine up. This is the steel of the cabinet. The leg or the feet have nylon or rubber pads on the bottom in a ball joint. Then the thread of the bolt, you put a nut and a washer, then the cabinet, then another washer and a nut on top. And you use the lower nut to higher or lower the cabinet to get the machine level. And once it's level, you use the top nut just to lock it in position. This part's the stand, but you can fit the machine to a table. Just set the level backwards and forwards. When the machine arrived, this top part was bolted to a pallet with the table, and the base was separate. If you buy a machine like this, the first problem you'll get when it arrives is how do you lift up the 425 kilo of the milling machine onto the stand. So For a home workshop you'll need some lifting equipment. I hired a small truck that would lift the pallet. I had to jack the pallet up to get the machine under the pallet. Then I had to jack the machine up on the pallet to get the forks of the machine under the bed of the milling machine. Lifted the machine up, put the table underneath. From there on it was quite simple, just to put these 4 bolts in each corner to bolt the machine to the base. The base has a drawer on the top here. In this drawer I've just got the handle for the up and down of the head and the cupboard underneath. I've located it next to the lathe. This machine is the Warco Super Major milling machine. We'll start at the top of the machine. On this machine there's a small motor which powers a rise and fall of the Z-axis. Just below and to one side is a bigger motor which powers the spindle. It's a 2 horsepower motor running on 240 volts. On the top here you've got the normal drawbar. This is the top of the spindle. So you've got your nut for the drawbar, that's just a cover that protects it. On this control panel we have emergency stop, power on, spindle stop, spindle forward, spindle reverse, and this controls the column so you can lift the spindle up and down. On the front of the machine we have a gearbox. There's a gearbox inside here with the high and low speed and 3 different settings for each. See down here it goes from 75 RPM up to 1600. There's a digital height gauge to see how far the spindle's moved up or down. You've got the rough height gauge with a bit crude pointer, and this side is your spindle up and down fine feed. At the bottom you have the guard, and as you open the guard there's an interlock switch. You can hear it click. If the power's on it will turn the power off as I open that guard, so the machine won't work. If I press the start button it won't work. This caused me a bit of problems when I first had it, because when I took the machine out of the packing case, the first thing I removed was this guard. I thought that's something that could easily get broken, so I took the guard off, put the machine on the stand, moved it into position, connected the electrics, nothing would work. There is nothing in the manual or in the instructions to say that this guard has an interlock. There are no visible signs of any wires around the switch. So as soon as I open the guard, if you look at the power light there, it goes off, and nothing on here will work if the guard's open. Close the guard, press the power button, everything will work. Just behind the guard there's this cover here. This holds a spring, for the return spring for the head. It's rather like a drilling machine where a pedestal drill, where you have a big coiled spring inside, and you can tension this to make the head come up. This is the data plate on the side of the machine. Both slideways are covered with the concertinas to stop swarf getting onto the slideways. On the side of the gearbox we have a lever. This is like a drilling machine where you can pull the handle and the spindle will come down for drilling. You also have a dial here you can rotate and lock the lock. You can rotate this dial for a stop, the depth. And this screw here locks it so you can't put the feed on. Now if I pull the handle forward, it engages the power feed. To work the feed on the head, just turn it to the on position here, select the feed that you want, switch it on, and you'll see this is turning automatically. Reverse. Engage it. When it gets to the depth you've set, it will automatically stop. Two locks here to lock the slide. Nuts here that you can undo to rotate the head 90 degrees left or right. Just here you've got the oil level for the head. There's an LED lamp fitted to the machine with its switch. The handle fits onto this part here, so if for any reason you want to do it by hand, you can turn the head up and down by hand. They advise not to leave this on, because when you use the electric up and down mechanism, this spins, so it may make the handle spin and it could either catch on the lamp. And on the back here you've got the main on off switch of the machine. This end we have a power feed for the table movement. By adjusting this knob here, you can slow or speed the table up. This lever puts it in which direction you need to go, forward or backwards on the table. Here we have a rapid, put it in there, rapid switch. You press that, moves the table. This is the on-off switch. On this end of the table we have a standard handle. This is metric. All the machine is metric. Here you've got stops for the table. As they hit this switch box, it will automatically stop the table moving. Clamps to clamp the table. And this is the cross feed. Now let's go through the equipment you get with the machine. You get the number 3 Morse taper to an R8 adapter. The spindle on the machine is R8. You get a number 3 Morse taper on the outside to number 2 Morse taper on the inside, so that will fit in there and take you from an R8 to a number 2 Morse taper. You get this milling cutter holder, which is an R8 to a 1-inch diameter on the end. You get the Jacobs type chuck with an R8 B16 adapter, chuck key, this small oil bottle, a pair of bolts that fit the T-slots so you can hold a vice on the machine, a spanner a drill drift and some Allen keys for the various cap heads and sockets on the machine. It also came with 4 bolts with this welded part on the end, and I think these are, if you want to bolt the machine to a table, you can use these bolts under the table to bolt the machine to the table. All the tools come with this plastic toolbox which they all fit into. I'm just performing the spindle running period. What they say in the manual is that run the spindle for 10 minutes in each of the speeds, starting with the slow speed and then going up to the fast speeds. So that's going to take me an hour to run the head spindle in. And after I'd ran the machine in, I drained the oil from the head into a plastic bottle, let the oil settle so any bits of metal would go to the bottom, poured most of it back into the head, and then the oil with the bits of metal in at the bottom of the bottle I poured through a coffee filter so that the oil could be used. Well, that's it for this week. I hope that was interesting. Hope to see you next week on Enots Engineering.